Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar to connect Pyramix 25th and Dolby Atmos, the renderer of Dolby Atmos. There have been a few papers, things, explanations around. I wanted to make it very easy step by step, first theoretically and then practically to understand, to make it easy, the easiest possible to understand how or the workflow we propose and the ecosystem we propose. So first of all, you're going to see here on that screen a little presentation, and then we go on to the Pyramix, the renderer, and so on, explaining how it works together. So to start with, I need obviously a computer, a Windows 10 computer that hosts the native Pyramix 25th version or Mascot version. Doesn't play any role in here, as you want. And on the other side, I have a Mac Mini that hosts the Dolby renderer. It has to be 3.4 or above to work properly. Then, then on the Pyramix side, on the PC side, I have the latest MAD, the merging audio device, that allows my Pyramix outputs and inputs eventually to go over the network, AS67 Ravenna. And I'm coming to the settings in real afterwards. I'm just explaining first of all the tools and the items I'm using to do that. Then the second one is on the on the Mac Mini side is the VAD, the virtual audio device for OS. There as well, I need some setup, and this is to allow my renderer to be connected to my streams coming either from Pyramix or, for example, to play back the rendered file so that I can listen to that on my monitoring device. Then obviously those two computers have to be connected to the network. And when I say to the network via switch, it has to be a pre-configured or configured switch, but basically something that allows audio over IP. We have tons of documents about which models, the config files and so on, so please refer to other support pages on that. And then from this switch, we're connected to an Anubis monitoring mission that allows me to have different sources. So that allows me to, for example, have the Pyramix output source in Atmos. I've chosen 5.1.4. It could be 7.1.4 or 9.1.6. Whatever you want, all the different protocols are supported and others apart from the Dolby Atmos one. But I've chosen 5.1.4 because it's straightforward and easy. And so it means I will then connect it with Pyramix to the monitoring mission as a source, and I will also have another source from my Dolby Atmos renderer to be able to listen to my file once it's done. Good. And then to be able to listen to my speakers, Anubis has only 4 analog outputs, plus 2 headphone outputs that I could use as a line output if I want to. I have a switch to do that. But obviously, if I have a 5.1.4 or 7.1.4 installation, I need a bit more outputs. So here we have either Horus, which has up to 48 analog outputs, or a Happy Mark II, which has up to 16 analog outputs. It will work with the Happy One as well. There's absolutely no difference. But I have those 2 devices where I can sit in cards analog outputs to go and to attack my speakers. I could have also just a Happy with 1 analog output card that makes 8 analog channels, plus using 2 channels from my Anubis or 4 channels of my Anubis that makes 12 channel output. I can combine them, it's IP, the way I want it. Good. Then, obviously, they are connected to the speakers, to the analog speakers, so that I can place them and proper mix or master and monitor my Atmos mixing. But if I happen to have audio over IP speakers, some manufacturers are making them, I don't need a Horus or Happy. I can directly connect those speakers to my switch, and there we go. So this is then dependent how your situation is. To be able to perform, to do all of that, I need Animan, which is my audio network manager, basically my virtual patch over the network to connect all those software and hardware devices together. What is going where, what is coming from where, what is going in multiple places at the same time, and so on. You will see, pretty easy to connect, and I will show you how to do all of that. So first of all, I will need to connect to make sure that my MAD on the Windows side, on the Pyramix side, and my VAD on the Mac Mini side on my renderer is working and connected together. So let's start with the renderer. And the renderer is actually here. I will make my picture a little bit smaller as well so that we have more space for that. The renderer is actually, you see that here because it's a TeamViewer page of the Mac Mini. Obviously, for demonstration and I mean presentation purposes, I have to have everything on one screen. So I TeamView the Mac Mini over here so that you can see it as well. Good. So before going into the renderer, I have here my VAD driver, which is set to Ravenna AS67 and not to Unite. So Unite is this new fantastic way of simplifying the straight away all the available in and outputs of my device. Great, which is nice. But this is for simple setups. Here we're going to do some back-end returns with 4 different devices and whatever. So I go into the more complex side of it with the Ravenna AS67 that allows to launch Animan, for example. I have to be careful that I'm on the same latency as all my devices. I'm here, decided to be here in Ravenna, and I set it up to have 24 in and outputs. I could go, of course, to higher or lower if I need to, but that's how I decided to work on that aspect here. Good. Now my renderer, which is already partly set up, and I'm not going to explain how to set it up because for that you look on the Dolby webinars and all of that. But basically I'm in 5.1.4, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm here, this is important under my preferences. Obviously I'm under the core audio. I've chosen to work with the merging Ravenna AS67 driver, that's the VAD driver I've just shown, on the input and on the output. And then that I also have a LTC over audio. I'm using an audio track in my Pyramix to export, basically to send my LTC. This could be done via LTC output over Happy and Horus as well, but I was thinking that's the easiest. It's pretty straightforward. And the channel that my LTC is going to be received by the renderer is audio channel number 24. Okay, that's the last one of my 24 channels. I could put it to 95 if I want. I mean, this is just a setting issue. And then obviously, depending the area in the world I'm in or the production, the way it has been done, I can choose the frame rate. And of course, that has to correspond from my Pyramix to my renderer and vice versa. Sorry, there was just a small accident. Coming back, and we continue. So the thing is that now the basics are set up, and obviously I also have to set up in my input configuration. Gonna go into my input file. I said here I'm gonna have my bed, my 5.1 bed, first of all, from 1 to 6, and Dolby doesn't allow to put anything else on track 7, 8, 9, and 10. I mean, I could if I would do a 7.1.4 or things like that, but as I'm in 5.1, I have channels from 1 to 6, and then I start with objects a little bit later here on channel 11, 12, and 13, and 14. This is my top left speaker, top right speaker, top rear left speaker, top rear right speaker. I set it up before. This is an object, okay? I set it up as objects, and so that I have to name it now again because I set it again. Left. Okay, and these are now my 4 objects, and as a little exercise, because those are my fixed objects, my 4 top speakers, as a little exercise, I added 4 other objects. You will understand a little bit later at the end why, but basically I'm gonna reproduce the same signal over here, but just to show you that there is a difference in the way you can manage and use either fixed objects or dynamic objects. And there are some interesting things in the music field over it. Good. Now that my renderer, so to say, is set up, of course I created a new file. I'm going here for the timecode and so on and so on. I make it a bit smaller, and so that I can go back to my presentation. The thing is that the Anubis, the first thing I'm going to start with is to connect the outputs of my monitoring, my 5.1 monitoring of the Anubis, to my Happy or Horus so that I can attack my speakers. And this is where I'm going to start to use Animan. There we are in Animan. I'm gonna connect or select the Anubis and the Horus, which is now there. And these are now, of course, this is, I've prepared this up front, but you either you know how to do it in Anubis, or please refer to the manual or to the other webinars about Anubis, how to set up a speaker set. But my speaker set here that I created is called now Atmos speaker set. It's a 5.1.4, basically a 10 stream or 10 channel speaker set. And this is connected now to my Horus DA outputs. So that this is my DA cards. I have here 2 DA cards. Basically, I have 16 digital to analog conversion output cards available in my Horus, and I connected those 10 first to my 10 outputs of my Atmos renderer. So it means that now I have an Atmos setup. If I go to the remote control of my Anubis that I can open here, I see I have my speaker set Anubis there. This is a standard 5.1 output. So this will then show the 5.1 outputs, and this will then show my Atmos output. It should show up there. There we go. So I have my 5.1 output, and I have my Atmos speaker set output here. Good. And these are my sources. I'm coming to that a little bit later. Now, the next point, yes, before going to the next page, what is important to understand is all the outputs on the Anubis as a monitoring device, so to say, have an EQ, have a trim, and a delay. So obviously you would understand that you can make your room correction straight away with the Anubis and have those settings inside as a preset. So it means that you can have several presets, but you can have several outputs as well. You can go from mono to 30.2, and all the Atmos setups are in there. So one day you're going to mix a 5.1.4, but the next day a 9.1.6. If you have enough the speaker setup and all of that, you just toggle from one to the other the way you want. Very flexible. Good. Now I have to connect the output of my Pyramix, my DAW 5.1.4 into my source of the Anubis. And there again, I'm using my Animan, and now I'm going to here draw basically over my Anubis and my Pyramix, so that I see here my Pyramix outputs and inputs, and I see here my Anubis basically sources this time, not monitors. Okay, the sources are the inputs, so to say. So I created 2 sources, one being the DAW 5.1.4 and one being the renderer 5.1.4. The renderer will then be the Dolby Atmos connection to be able to A/B, to listen what is rendered. But first of all, I connect my DAW 5.1.4, and I have my 6 outputs of my Pyramix here that I connect 5.1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, boom. And then, as you know, there's this 4-track hole in the renderer, so I keep it the same here, not to be confused. Output 11, 12, 13, 14 is going straight away to my input 7, 8, 9, 10 of my Anubis. So I have my source fulfilled. And now we'll connect or select the source in my Pyramix, in my Anubis, and I will be able to listen to. So this is now my Pyramix session that I prepared. My blue or my clear blue tracks or clips there is my 5.1, my bed. Then I have those purple ones. This is my top 4 speakers. They are coming. I could have 1 strip for that, or 2, as I have now, a quad and a 5.1. I can have 10 mono strips. It depends really about the material I have, actually. Good. Now here, this is sent basically on a 5.1.4 Dolby Atmos bus straight away. I have all the different, as well in my Pyramix, I have all the different possibilities to change, to add, or to remove all the different types of bus structure. I can have custom bus structure if I wanted to put 7 speakers all in a line or whatever it is, but that's not what we're discussing here. So all the standards, and if I come to the Dolby Atmos, I have 5.1.2.4 and so on up to 9.1.6. And here I added a 5.1.4, and now I feed my 5.1 plus 4 into this bus there, and you will see now that the renderer, if I close this guy, because it is connected, is already getting something. Okay, I'm sending that here, and this is not actually what I wanted to show about the renderer. What I wanted to show is about my Anubis, is that here I get this guy now over there. And if I go into my renderer over there, I will see that the things are moving and that I'm listening now to the DAW. And here I can mute my speaker or solo my speaker or whatever is required in terms of monitoring. Great. I'm stopping my device and I'm going to the next point. And my next point is this time connecting the renderer to my Anubis. And as you have already seen and certainly very well understood, is that here I have now my source, which is called renderer 5.1.4, and now I just have to connect and to select, sorry, on the top left, where I have those little devices, so that I can see or choose what I want to see. If I can see everything at the same time, but then the screen is perhaps too small for that, so I prefer selecting it, but where you have a modus where you can see it all at the same time. And now here I have my renderer. So if I go into the core audio outputs, that will be a little bit lower there. I will see now those outputs 5.1.4. They are connected. Sorry, yes, sorry, that's it. 5.1.4. So the 5.1 plus 4 are connected here, and then I can A/B in my monitoring device, my Anubis, the direct from the Pyramix or the output of the renderer with a slight delay, obviously due to the core audio and the iOS. Or when I finish my file, I would like to play it back, so to make sure that it all works, and then I can listen from there as well. Good. The next one would be now to connect the Pyramix native output to the renderer itself. And I'm using, don't forget, I'm IP. So I'm using the same output to listen on my Anubis. I'm going to also use it to go into the renderer. And this time I will connect, I will ask to show just the two computers. So I have the ASIO computer, is basically my PC that hosts or that holds the Pyramix. And then I have my core audio, which hosts the renderer. And now I have my output 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of my Pyramix connected into my input of the core audio renderer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I have my 4 top left, top right, top rear left, top rear right speakers that are connected on my output 11 to 14. And then here I have those outputs that are connected to show you a little bit later with object buses how we can do it when they are dynamic. Last but not least, one important aspect, you see this little kind of purplish track at the very bottom. It's a timecode track. I imported a timecode file. And I have it on my track 7 here. That is straight away direct out exited, so I don't go through my mixer and my bus structure and so on. And output 24 here from Pyramix, input 24 in the renderer. As you remember, the LTC comes into there, and so that I have now my LTC connection. That means that when I play back my file, I see my LTC moving here because I clicked the chase button. And now everybody is happily working together. I see the 4 dots here connected because they receive some audio with the number of the tracks. This is how I selected to be. And actually, I could now, if I go to the very beginning, one thing I forgot, perhaps important to mention, not in Animan, but in the presentation, the timecode, that's what we saw. And I would have to connect basically over the metadatas my renderer to my Pyramix or my Pyramix to my renderer by both ways. And this is very straightforward. I go into my Pyramix, I go here, and I go right-click onto the Pyramix, and I go onto Settings and say Atmos Connect. And it was, or it is already connected, so I could say disconnect, but you type in the IP address and you say connect. And it takes 2 seconds. I mean, I can do it just to show you quickly. Now it is disconnected. I say connect, boom, 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 and it's connected. So now, why that? It is, first of all, very easy. In the routing tool, for example, you remember that I was naming top left, top rear speakers, and so on. So they take them here. So the metadatas are completely taken from it. And they appear here from what exists from my renderer. And I have them back here. And that means that now if I'm making the playback, so my audio outputs with my timecode, with my speaker determination of where they are, I'm gonna hide this, and so behind you will see the renderer. And now I can say I want to start, no, not to forget the time code. I want to start when I'm starting here, so that now I can play, and it's recording into my renderer what I'm doing. My 5.1.4, sorry, my 5.1 plus 4. And of course, in my monitoring section, I can A/B it, the DAW and the renderer. The top here, the mix speaker, is actually my microphone here. I'm using Anubis also to talk to you, so this is why it's moving there. But now I don't click sum, but because I don't want to sum these two different things. But now I can listen either to my DAW or to the renderer. And what is then nice, when I finished my rendering, I then go back to my renderer and I say, let me get it here. And I say now I want to listen to the master file. So I go back to here, and I can mute those guys so to make sure that we're not doing something twice. So now I see there's no signal from my DAW, and I'm listening to the rendered file. So I can really A/B and use that very conveniently from one to the other. So let me show you something a bit more interesting as well. Quickly, I'm gonna create a new recording file. Sorry, I'm just gonna do it with the other computer. It's gonna be faster. I'm gonna call this guy rec 9. I create a new file because now I'm gonna connect and route the outputs 5, 16, 17, 18. You remember that those 4 outputs here also have been prepared, so to say, for the effects I wanted to show you, so the dynamic way of working. Now if I go back to the beginning and I play, because I made this connection, so this is a tricky thing with the renderer, that is, once you're used to it's fine, but perhaps at the beginning when you use it, you're not familiar with that. You need to feed some audio into the renderer so that it shows you the objects, and which is now this little green dot you see here. Let me make this whole thing a little bit bigger so that you see a little bit better what's happening there. So you see this green dot, and now I have 4 mono tracks that are playing. And if I open my panner, I can do it also straight away here, but I wanted to show you precisely. If I move now my panner, I could automate that. But you see now my dot, one of those dots, because the 4 are on the top of each other, because I have 4 objects, now this guy is moving. And it's moving up as well, or down. Sorry, up. I move it up. And this is then the interesting part. I can have some divergence with it. And I can do that with each of them. If I would like to, put some divergence and move them up or down. And this can be, of course, automated, like in every Pyramix thing and way and whatever. So this is then very interesting, where I can move things around, I can do things independently. That means that if I choose a 5.1 bed and 4 dynamic objects, even if my intention is actually not to move them, but I can have an input on my divergence. By opposition, if I go now to my 4 top speakers, this is my quad track, I can also have some divergence, but obviously I will add it or remove it to all the 4 speakers at the same time. Where here I can, if I want to, add some divergence specifically on each individual mono channel. And this is then with the object bus that you can achieve it and connect it to via the metadata to the renderer. Great. I think I've explained all what I wanted to explain. If you have questions, remarks, and you need some whatever, I mean, if you need help or whatever questions, you find a lot of information on the support pages, and do not hesitate to contact our support if you need more.